take a trip back to the 80s and 90s, a time when kids played in the streets until dark, rented videotapes from the store, and TV only had a few channels to watch. Now those same kids have grown up and are living in a world where everything is available instantly, right at their fingertips. What has this huge leap done to their mental health? Why does this generation always feel like they need to balance between two different worlds? Stay with me until the end of the video. If you were born in the 1980s, you probably feel some things that you can't really name when you try to put them into words. It's like you're always somewhere in the middle, not completely modern, not very traditional either. Now, why do you get this feeling? Because you grew up in one of the strangest and most unusual periods in history, a period when the world was changing at an absolutely incredible speed. Do you remember when the home phone was an important thing? Or when you wanted to talk to your friend, you had to go to their door or see them at school? Back then, there was no text message, no email to tell you where they were or what they were doing. You had to wait. You had to see them in person. This was a very important thing in shaping your personality because you learned to be patient. You learned to have commitment. When you made plans for 3 in the afternoon in front of the cinema, you had to go because there was no other way to contact them. Now imagine that same kid who grew up like this is now living in a world where everything is instant. Someone sends a message. If you don't see it, they think you're being disrespectful. Before, you'd wait 2 or 3 days for a call or a letter to arrive. Now you have to answer right in that moment. What is this contradiction? What is this duality that's happening in your mind? This point is very important. Your brain was trained for a slower world, for a world where relationships were deeper. Now that brain is trying to survive in a world where everything is fast and superficial. What's the result? Mental exhaustion. You're kind of always trying to control everything, but every day you feel like something is slipping away from you. You grew up in a big family where they probably told you to study hard, find a good job, buy a house, get married, have kids, and everything will be fine. This was the previous generation's formula. They lived like this and it worked for them. Grandparents and grandmothers said this and it really was like that. But when you reached young adulthood, you saw that this formula doesn't work anymore. You studied, but entered the job market and saw the competition was tough. You looked for financial independence, but saw that costs had gone way up. You wanted to buy a house, but the housing market prices had skyrocketed. Suddenly, you realized the rules of the game had changed, but nobody had told you about it. This isn't a feeling of hopelessness, it's a feeling of confusion. You did everything right, just like they told you to do, but it didn't work out. Now you keep telling yourself, maybe I have a problem, maybe I'm not enough, I need to try harder. But the reality is you grew up in a system that changed its rules halfway through the journey. The 2008 financial crisis came right when you were entering the working world. House prices went up, student loans became heavy and burdensome, and everything you had promised yourself suddenly disappeared into thin air. This psychological pressure is very heavy to carry because you still have those expectations in your mind. You still think you should reach certain places in life, but every day you see that your distance from those goals is getting bigger. This feeling of failure is slowly building the layers of your personality. It's making you into a person who's always more skeptical, more cautious, and less hopeful for the future ahead. You're now standing between two generations. On one side is your previous generation with traditional beliefs. They say hard work solves everything. They say you should stay loyal to one job, one path, one direction. They don't understand why you keep changing your job or why you haven't gotten married yet or why you haven't had kids. They think you're being unstable, but they don't understand that you're trying to cope with a different world that operates by different rules. On the other side is the generation after you who think much more easily and freely. They have no experience of the analog world at all. They grew up with phones in their hands from day one. They know how to escape the system, how to put aside expectations without feeling guilty. But you can't do that because they taught you that responsibility matters, commitment matters. You shouldn't just drop everything and leave. Now you're stuck between two different worlds trying to navigate both. The duality is exhausting your mind every single day because you're always trying to meet family expectations and find yourself at the same time. Be rich and be happy, be successful and be healthy, but nobody told you how to have all of these things together at once. Do you remember when you were a kid and one of your friends would knock on your door? Just like that, without any plan or appointment. They'd say, "Let's go out and play," and you'd go without thinking twice. Now, who knocks on your door? who comes unexpectedly. Even when you want to make plans with your closest friends, you have to plan 2 weeks ahead and coordinate schedules. And then, whenever you might send the message saying, "Sorry, I'm tired today, let's do it another time." And that's it, the plan falls apart. They said the internet brings people closer together. You can chat with someone on the other side of the world at any hour, but you don't talk to your neighbor who's living right behind the wall just a few feet away from you. Now, how many real friends do you have? Not followers on social media or people who like your posts. Someone who, if you cry at 2:30 in the morning and feel broken, you can call them without hesitation. Someone who really knows what kind of person you are deep inside. If you have even one person like that, you're lucky. Many people don't have that anymore. It's interesting that you feel lonely, but your phone is full of messages and notifications, full of people and contacts, but none of them are really there for you. None of them really know how you're doing beneath the surface. Maybe someone asks, "How are you?" And you say, "I'm fine," out of habit, and then nothing happens after that. The conversation ends there. Then you sit alone and think, maybe I have some kind of problem. Maybe I'm too boring or not interesting enough. But no, it's not like that at all. The new world has made everything superficial and shallow. Social media has made it so nobody talks real anymore about what matters. Everyone is showing a fake version of themselves, a polished highlight reel. Everyone is pretending their life is great and perfect, and you're losing yourself in the middle of all these games and performances. It's not your fault at all. You just grew up at the worst possible time in human history for this transition, a time when everything was changing rapidly, and nobody knew what was happening to our mental health and well-being. You learned that relationships matter, presence matters, honesty matters deeply. Now you're living in a world where none of these things matter anymore to most people. Everyone is talking to each other from behind a mask or a screen. How old are you now? 30-something? 40-something? Look, you should be at the peak of your life right now, according to the old timeline. Everything should be in its place by now. But why isn't it? Why are you still asking these questions? Why don't you still know exactly what you want to do with your life? You see some people around you buying houses, starting successful companies, forming families, and settling down. But you're still thinking, maybe I went the wrong way or made wrong choices somewhere along the line. This isn't a feeling of failure or giving up. This is the chronic confusion of an entire generation caught between worlds. A generation that was told everything is possible if you work hard. But when they wanted to go toward those dreams, they saw the roads were closed or too expensive to travel. A generation that was told you can be whatever you want to be in life. But when they wanted to become something, they saw that being anything meaningful cost too much money, time, and energy. You're wrestling with an identity crisis that won't go away because you still don't know exactly who you are at your core. You still don't know if what you want is what others want from you or if it's really yours, coming from your own heart. It's making you into a tired person who no longer has the motivation or energy to try new things or take risks. If you've been with me until here in this video, thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. Maybe today you understood something important you didn't know before. Or maybe you felt a bit calmer knowing you're not alone in feeling this way. Others have these same feelings and struggles too. If this video helped you in any way or spoke to you, support it so others can see it too and benefit from it. We're right here, and we're going to talk more about these things in future videos. Take care of yourself and be kind to yourself. You deserve it.